Hey there Retro Games fans, this is Andy C from Pieces of 8-Bit, and today we're diving into one of the biggest gaming phenomena of all time. Because when you think about the Game Boy Advance, you probably think about loads of different great games. We played Mario Kart in the middle of the week, for instance, but let's be brutally honest here, there is only one name that absolutely dominates the conversation, and it doesn't take a genius to work that one out. It is, of course, Pokémon. Now, by the time Pokémon hit the Game Boy Advance platform, it wasn't some new experimental franchise anymore. It had already exploded onto the scene with Pokémon Red and Blue on the OG Game Boy, and it quickly became somewhat of a global sensation. So we are talking games that sold in the tens of millions, a hit TV show, hundreds of episodes, wasn't there? Trading cards taking over playgrounds all over the planet. It was no longer just a game, it was and remains a cultural movement. And here's the thing, the Game Boy Advance era is a really interesting movement in Pokemon history, because on the face of it, while still hugely successful with games like Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, Pokémon FireRed and LeafGreen, and Pokémon Emerald, all selling millions upon millions of copies in their own right, for many players this was their Pokemon. But there was somewhat of a twist, because some fans actually look back at this era as a little bit of a blip. Not because it wasn't good, but because it sat right in between the original magic of the Game Boy Pokemons and the innovation that came later, that we saw in the DS version, for instance, and Switch versions today. So today what we're going to do is we're going to explore all of that as we play, including thoughts on what made Pokemon such a phenomenon, why it works so well on the GBA, and whether this era it really was a step down or something a bit more misunderstood. Now, I've not really played Pokemon much at all. In fact, Pokemon Go on my mobile phone is about the extent of it. So I'm not doing this alone. Harry is joining me. He's bringing a modern Pokemon perspective into the mix as our resident Pokemon expert, if you will. So before we run through some of the gameplay, Harry, could you talk me through what Pokemon we've had on the GBA and the GB before it? Because I get a bit confused by all of the variations and what they mean. And then after that, we'll dive into some gameplay. So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So basically there were 3 generations for the original Game Boy, as well as a couple spin-off games. You had Pokémon Green and Pokémon Blue that originally released in Japan. No, Pokémon Green and Red, sorry. And then you had Pokémon Red and Blue that released internationally, so in like America and the UK. And then you then had Generation 2, which was like Gold and Silver, with Crystal being a separate one, similar story but slightly different. And then you had the remakes of the original generation, which was FireRed and LeafGreen, so everywhere got green in the end. And then you also had Pokemon Yellow, which was a special version to go with the first generation, which allowed you to choose Pikachu as your starter. And then third generation was Pokemon Emerald, Ruby and Sapphire, which were in a different region. I think it was Hoenn.
Okay, gotcha. Right. This is why I get confused, because there's like several different versions of the same one, and I guess as we get into the games, we'll talk a little bit about what makes Red and Green different from each other, what makes Emerald and Sapphire different from each other. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is it generally what sort of on a high level? What is the general difference between them? It's just like, because you said it's the same story, but like.
Well, most of it is the legendaries actually, because each generation is set in a different region. So the 3 generations were Kanto, Johto and Hoenn, and each one had its own set of legendaries. So the originals were more based on the starters, which were Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise, and then obviously in the anime Ash had Pikachu, which inspired the special one. And then Generation 2 was Gold and Silver. Their legendaries were Ho-Oh and Lugia, and it was the large part of the story was based around them and sort of helping them to escape these evil teams, because each region had their own evil team, like Team Rocket for example. And then third generation you had Kyogre, which was Sapphire, and Groudon, which was Ruby, and then you had Rayquaza, which was Emerald. And same thing again, it was the main part of the story was based around meeting them and stopping them from being captured by the evil team.
Okay. God, that's a lot of that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess some of this will come clear as we play the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this next part of the video into 3 sections. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the spin-off games on the Game Boy Advance. So there was a couple of spin-off games. We had Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, Ruby and Sapphire.
And then what was the other one? The
Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which was Red Rescue Team.
Yes, and if you want to check that one out, actually, that is available on the Switch if you've got the Game Boy Advance emulator running on there with the Nintendo subscription. So, so we're going to have a look at those 2 first, and let me know your thoughts on those. We've already recorded some gameplay, so we will just be doing a bit of a voiceover as we talk through it, and I'll try and get my head around it. Then we're going to look at the first generation remakes on the GBA, and then we're going to look at the GBA specific ones, so that's the Emerald, Sapphire and Ruby ones there as well. So we'll talk about those, and then we'll come back at the end and then talk about what our thoughts are about the GBA Pokemon games. So yeah, let's dive into some gameplay and let's all go and have a look. I'll see you there. Okay, so this is the first of the spin-offs then. This is Pokemon Pinball on the GBA. So you had a bit of a play with this one. We're only going to talk about these spin-off ones for a few minutes just to kind of get a bit of a flavour of how they work. But first of all, what is the premise of the pinball game then?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I hadn't really heard of this one before until recently. I think it's just, as you can see, it's Ruby and Sapphire, so it's based around the legendaries in their games and sort of the version exclusive Pokemon.
Okay.
And it's literally just a normal pinball machine with the Pokemon in, and you have to catch different Pokemon by bouncing into the picture of them. As you can probably see, I'm not doing a too great
That's okay.
attempt of it.
Well, you'd not played it before.
No, I'm not too good at pinball, to be honest.
No. Well, it's on I mean, obviously this is on a small machine. Well, obviously we're emulating this here for the purposes of recording, but obviously this would be on a pretty small machine. Yeah. I quite like emulated pinball games. It looks pretty good. I mean, how did you find it?
I mean, I think I liked sort of the premise of this bit specifically, the catch mode. I think it was quite fun how they incorporated it into it. So, as you can see, it landing in the Whelmer's mouth, which was like that whale Pokemon. You get a blacked out image of a Pokemon, and you have to hit the 3 Pokemon at the top, which are Shroomish, and you get to catch different Pokemon. And I think, to be honest, with a game on the Game Boy that was obviously a decent while ago, I think the aesthetics are pretty good. I really like the amount of colour and all the way they've shown the different Pokemon. And I just think it was quite good.
Yeah, it looks like a good pick up and play sort of game. It is quite pretty, isn't it? I was thinking that. It's very colourful. Seems quite smooth. And so, using my patented 5 parrots scoring system, how many parrots would you give this game? Would you recommend it?
Okay, personal preference, because I prefer this sort of battling, the classic style of Pokemon, I would give it maybe a 3. Okay. But if we're thinking technically and aesthetics and all that, I'd say maybe a 4. Okay. Just because I think, genuinely, it is quite a nice game. Yeah. Like you said, it's a good pick up and go game. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's not real Pokemon, is it? I mean, it's a bit like when you play Sonic Spinball. It's like it's not real. It's not real Sonic, but it, I think 3's fair. I think 3 is fair based on that. It does look good though. Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's look at so it's the dungeon one. What was it called? The Pokemon Red Rescue Team Mystery Dungeon.
All right, let's have a quick look at that. Okay, so this is Pokemon Red
Rescue Team.
Red Rescue Team. You've told me this like 3 times now, and I keep forgetting.
Mystery Dungeon.
Mystery Dungeon. Okay, gotcha. And I won't remember it because I keep seeming to forget the name. It just doesn't roll off the tongue at all. So what's this game about then?
So this is quite atypical for Pokemon, just like the pinball, because rather than playing as a trainer and catching Pokemon, you play as a Pokemon themselves, and you sort of... it's like you've been transported into the world of Pokemon without people.
Oh, right.
So you don't see anyone, you're just experiencing what it must be like for Pokemon in the wild.
So is it more like like an Animal Crossing type thing then? Is it or?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say it's like that. It's quite unique, to be honest. I don't really know what I would compare it to. I have heard about this one before, but I've never really been too interested in it because, like I said before, I've always been more about the battling side and the traditional Pokemon games. But I don't really know. It is quite different.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what. I don't know much about Pokopia, which is coming. I don't know if that's going to be. Are you playing as Pokemon in that, or is that?
Yeah, you play as a Ditto.
Okay, so maybe there's some similarity there, or a bit of inspiration from this there.
Yeah, maybe.
So how did you find this game then?
I wasn't too taken with this game, but it's not because of how it worked. It's because of it wasn't because of the story. It was because of the controls. I couldn't understand them, and it wasn't really explained to me. And it is fairly basic in terms of like aesthetics compared to the Pinball, which was really like pleasing to the eye. It's quite simple, as you can see. It's just I don't know. It's just not very detailed, really.
So what do you have to do then? Is it like quest based, or do you have to?
Yeah. So basically, you team up with a partner, which you choose at the beginning, and you have to go and rescue this Caterpie that fell into this dungeon, and you have to beat all these other Pokemon that are enraged because a big fissure opened.
Yeah. And
they've all fallen in, so they're quite angry about that.
Okay. And it looks like it's not turn-based, no turn-based combat or anything else like in.
I'm not 100% sure because this is my main problem with it. I just didn't really understand the controls.
Okay, so not too intuitive then.
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay, all right. Well, let's wrap this one up because I'm really keen for us to go and have a look at the proper Pokemon. So what's your verdict on this one if you had to give it a score?
I'd probably say 2.
Okay. All right, yeah. I've not heard much about this. It's weird that this is the only one that you can get on the Switch, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pinball's on there, I'm not sure, but...
Yeah, well, they have added Pokemon LeafGreen and FireRed on there, but you have to pay for that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I think it might be appealing to some people, just not really for me.
Yeah, okay, no, I understand that. And as a Pokemon fan, I think you get to say what's good and what's not here. That's fine. All right then, so let's go and have a look now at so which was the one you played? Was it Leaf Green?
Yeah.
Let's go and have a look at Leaf Green now, and dig into the full size Pokemon game on the GBA. Right then, so this is somewhat of the main event then. So as I understand it, so this is Pokemon Leaf Green version on the GBA, and this is the reimagined version of Green from the original Game Boy.
Yeah.
And this is also the one that was only available in Japan on launch, but obviously then once Leaf Green came out, then everybody got to play it. Okay, so first then, what is the difference between the Fire Red and the Leaf Green, or the Red and the Green, to start with, just to clarify once more?
Well, when you open the game, you go through a whole bit where you tell Professor Oak your name, and he forgets his own nephew's name because you're supposed to say what it is, or his grandson even. And in Fire Red, you're given a list of names that are like the classic ones, the classic heroes, so like Red, Ash, things like that. And then the difference with this that I didn't actually know is that it gives you the opposite names that it gives you for the rival if you play Fire Red.
Right.
So in this, the list of names for your rival is the list of names for you.
Right.
So Ash, Red, so on.
Okay.
Other than that, there isn't really much else that's different. I chose Bulbasaur just because, well, one, it's Leaf Green, and two, because it's actually probably the most useful starter to have.
Okay.
But you are allowed to choose any of the 3 starters.
Okay. No, that's cool. And so so obviously we've just sort of dropped into the game after it started here, but is there anything you have to kind of do to set up? Is it just fairly just put your name in, and does it give you a bit of a backstory and that kind of thing?
Not especially. I mean, it says that you've just moved to Pallet Town, I think, and you're supposed to go introduce yourself to Professor Oak.
Okay.
But that's it.
Okay, what's happening now?
I'm battling my rival, which is Red.
Okay. And is this like a friendly battle at the moment at this point, or is it
Yeah,
just
kind of. Well, he's supposed to be a bit annoying, the rival. He's like very full of himself.
Okay. And I assume this is like pretty standard Pokemon turn-based battling.
Yeah.
That even I will have seen in Pokemon Go.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're waiting to get in there. And I assume at this point as well that the game is sort of trying to teach you how to play.
Yeah.
So it's giving you some tips. That's what all this chattering is about here. That it's just kind of saying this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I actually lost this first.
Oh, did you? That's unusual for you.
Yeah.
I suppose because are you fairly underpowered at this point?
Yeah, the one thing I did notice about these older games is that I think they're actually quite a lot harder than the new ones.
Interesting.
Especially at the beginning.
So which games are just as an interjection then? Which games have you played sort of most recently on the Switch?
I've played Pokemon Shield, Pokemon Violet, and Pokemon Legend CA.
Okay. Did you play that? Is that Arceus? Is that one?
Oh yeah, I played that as well. That's different though.
Okay. Right. Okay. But ultimately then is the way that you play these battles pretty much the same in the new ones, but just obviously the graphics and everything else. There's more Pokemon as well, isn't there now?
Yeah. The only difference is that Legend CA and Arceus had a slightly different battle style, but they were the only two exceptions. Everything else is the same.
Right. Okay. So we're going through that at the moment. So assuming as you play the game, how does the sort of how do your characters develop then? So like you get like points you can use, or how does it work?
Yeah, when you win a battle, your Pokemon obviously gain points like they would in any other game.
Yeah.
You sort of just progress through the story. After you beat your rival, you leave and you're supposed to go to the next town and battle some Pokemon to level up. And then I think you have to deliver a package to Oak. He gives you some Pokeballs, and then you can go and catch some Pokemon.
Okay.
And continue through the world.
And is there a sort of like, what's, without any spoilers, what's the kind of general high level plot for LeafGreen?
I'm not actually 100% sure because I haven't played that much of it.
Okay.
I think this is probably the most basic out of all of them. I don't really know it has a big prominence from the legendaries. I think it's more just go through the gyms.
Okay. That's cool. So you played this one for about an hour, but you've also played this before so you played it on the emulator to do some recording. I think you played for about an hour, didn't you? And then you did, but you had played it actually on the GBA,
yes.
on the cartridge as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your so obviously this is a first generation Pokemon. Did you ever play it on? I don't think you did, because I don't think we've got it on the original Game Boy, have we?
I don't know.
Well, certainly not Red or Blue. I don't think we've had any of those. I'm pretty sure I don't. So I guess this would have been your first time playing these, other than when you played it before. So I guess then first question then really is, what's your sort of verdict when you compare it to, for playing in 2026, when you think about it compared to new ones?
I think it's quite good because I like how it sort of introduces you to the world and how it challenges you. But I do think it is really quite difficult at the beginning, especially this first generation, because your Pokemon are so low level and they have limited move sets, and actually the type matches are actually different in this game. They adapted them, so some of my knowledge doesn't actually work, which made some of it quite a bit more difficult for me particularly. But I think it is genuinely a really good game. It's obviously very similar to all the others.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so basically it's only really sort of the frustration, I guess, comes from the fact that you're used to being able to do certain things that they just weren't introduced at this point in the time. Okay, no, that's good. That's a good perspective. And what are you thinking in terms of score for this one?
I'd say probably a 4, because I think although it's obviously an old game, aesthetics are decent for something like that. Mm-hmm. The gameplay is good, story's pretty decent. My one problem is that it's quite difficult at the beginning. So
yeah, so I imagine if you were playing this in the early 2000s when this one came out, you probably would enjoy it more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. All right. Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, let's have a look now at the last one. So you played a bit of was it Ruby?
I played Sapphire.
You played Sapphire. Okay, you played a bit of Sapphire, and you've also played a little bit of Emerald as well, haven't you? Yeah, we can have a look at those two next. Let's get those loaded up, and we'll have a quick chat about those as well. Okay, so last up we've got Pokémon Sapphire, which is the 3rd generation.
Yeah.
And this is one that is built specifically for the GBA. So so this isn't a kind of port of an original one. This is built from the ground up for this platform. This one sold loads. I think this was somewhere in the region of 16 million, and then I think Emerald sold another 7.
Yeah.
So I think I will check the numbers, but I think that's about right. 20 something odd million for all of them. Now, you played Emerald. We meant to do a recording, but it doesn't appear to have recorded it. I'm not quite sure what's happened. But actually, in hindsight, it probably doesn't matter, because you played Emerald and you're like, actually, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So we've got Sapphire, Ruby, and then later came Emerald.
Yes.
And that was something about, I can't remember what they said Emerald was, but Aqua and Magma or something?
Yeah, so basically the evil teams for this, rather than being Team Rocket like they were in the first game, it's Magma for Ruby and Aqua for Sapphire, but in Emerald you had both the storylines.
Okay. And again, the difference between the two original ones then, so Sapphire and Ruby, is just, what is it, just your starter Pokemon and...
It's the evil team, and the legendary. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So let's talk through the game a bit here. So I've set the recording off about what feels like about half an hour into the game, because there's loads of intro, isn't there? There's tons and tons of intro and lots of chat. You said that's pretty normal for Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon games have insanely long tutorials. It's really annoying.
Yeah, I suppose because it's appealing to lots of ages. I guess if they're appealing to sort of younger people, they might need a bit more hand holding.
It's quite a unique game as well, so most people won't have experienced what it's like, I'd say.
Oh, what, with this particular one, or just Pokemon
just
in general?
Pokemon in general.
Right. Okay. All right. So what's the premise of this game then? Kind of what's happening so far? What's your understanding of what you've got to do in this?
So basically, same thing. You've moved to a town with your mum because for some reason the dad is just never there. And you have to go introduce yourself to the professor. He happens to have a daughter called May, who is your rival in this game.
Okay.
She's less stuck up than the first one. But yeah, you basically just have to go rescue him from a Pokemon that's attacking him. And he gives you the Pokemon that you choose at the beginning, which becomes your starter. And then you just have to go meet May. She teaches you how to become a trainer. She gives you a battle, and just go on from there, pretty much. Okay,
that's cool. So I mean, it looked like we obviously just had a quick battle just on the screen a few moments ago. So again, I assume same sort of mechanics as the last generation.
Yeah.
Well, the first generation, I guess, isn't it? Is the one that we just looked at before on LeafGreen. So very, very similar. We're going to see it again now. Another Poochyena.
Yeah, Poochyena, I think.
Okay, basically a dog.
Yeah.
Seems a bit harsh.
Well, it's based on a hyena.
Oh, okay. It seems quite angry.
Yeah, it's just the way they look.
Okay. It's kind of cute in its own sort of way.
Yeah, a lot of people like Poochyena.
Okay, so at this point you're just kind of getting introduced to the game, and again the same sort of thing, I guess. So you get experience points, and then that powers up your Pokemons, and you find Pokemons as you go around. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So what's your verdict on this in terms of how you think this one looks and plays compared to the last one that you played?
I think this one is quite easier because you don't have, in the last one there was one section between two of the towns called Viridian Forest, which was really difficult to get to because it's quite a large area. There's a lot of tall grass with Pokemon in, and there's a lot of trainers, so it's really hard to get through with your Pokemon in decent condition. This, however, doesn't have that. There's still tall grass and stuff, but it doesn't have a big area that you have to traverse through. Start of the game is pretty completely the same, really. Same mechanics, same everything really.
Yeah, graphically it doesn't look massively different, does it?
No.
It looks pretty similar. And I guess I mean I don't know how much of the original game, when they did Leaf Green, I don't know how much of the original game they used to build the new one, or whether they just took the same story and then just applied GBA technology. I don't know. I don't know, but they look very, very similar. Okay. It looks very colourful. It looks very fun.
Yeah.
I do like the look of these old Pokemon games.
Yeah.
They're very sweet, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a certain charm to them.
There is. Yeah, they've got very kind of 16-bit feel to them, despite being on a 32-bit console, actually, which the GBA was. But yeah, so I guess importantly then, what's your verdict on this one, on Sapphire?
I would say probably maybe 4.5, I think, because like I said, it's slightly easier at the beginning, but then this bit kind of annoyed me because I kept coming across Pokemon and I kept getting critical hits, and it was really annoying. I also found out that Mudkip has awful accuracy, which wasn't very useful either.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much exactly the same, just slightly easier at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. There's another one now. Look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon?
Yeah, based on a raccoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just walking through the grass, you just encounter millions of Pokemons.
Yeah.
That's kind of annoying. But yeah. I mean, I suppose you said you thought this one was better than the previous one, so I guess 4.5 is probably fair.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's a pretty good score for a game that is over 20, well, getting on for 25 years, 24 years, like old, I guess. So yeah, fantastic. Okay, so I guess probably what we'll do now then is we'll just go back and just get some final thoughts. And I want to get your thoughts on, what you think about these old Pokemon games, how they compare to the new ones. So let's have a bit of a chat about that, and then we'll wrap up for this video. Right, well, I hope you found that useful. That was really interesting. I've learned a significant amount about Pokemon that I didn't know before. Bearing in mind that I didn't know much other than what I've found out on Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
That's about all I know about Pokemon. It just really has not been something that I've ever really got into. I don't know why. Not sure. Especially because I remember in the late 80s when the Game Boy came out, everybody having a Game Boy and then everybody playing Pokemon on the Game Boy. It just never was something that we did.
Yeah.
And I don't ever really remember at school people having all the cards and everything else, even though that was still a thing. Because you're quite a big collector of the cards, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't collect them as much as I used to, but I do have quite a few. So,
yeah. Well, we did a video ages ago. Do you remember talking about how to spot a fake? So yeah, that was the start of my Pokemon learning journey, maybe. So yeah, I guess the question then really. So there's a few things I just wanted to kind of wrap up before we finish this video. First of all, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think about the the remade first generation and the third generation Pokemon games on the GBA, and would you go back and play them again? What was your general feeling on them?
I think I would definitely play them again, especially the original, because like I said, I don't really know much about its storyline because it's slightly different being the original. So it doesn't have prominent legendaries that guide the story. So I think I'd be quite interested just to see how that progresses, and if the story really is just go through the gyms, become region champion.
Yeah. But you enjoyed them?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I played for an hour on the first
You
time.
did? You didn't even realise, did you? I came in, I'm like, you still playing? I was like, I only needed 20 minutes of footage, and it was like an hour later. And how do you think, how do you think they compare to sort of the modern Pokemons now? Do you think they are feeling a bit dated, or do you think they've got, like you mentioned, they've got their own sort of charm?
They've definitely got their own charm. They're sort of apart from the new ones, because like none of the games are perfect by far. I mean, one of the most recent games, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, got a lot of hate for it because it just felt unfinished. They shouldn't have released it as early as they did because the graphics weren't up to scratch. But I think these ones, I wouldn't say they're dated because obviously they are getting on now, but I just quite like the way they look. I think their aesthetics are quite good for old games.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And I mean, the other thing that's been sort of talked about, and part of what I wanted to talk about on this video really, was the fact that obviously you've had a bit of a taste of playing Leaf Green, of what the original first generation Game Boy game was like. And then there's obviously the games on the DS. I don't know, have you played any of the DS ones?
Yeah, I've played Pokemon Sun.
Right, okay. And so you've got the DS, and that's like, a lot of people consider that to be when it was like really like at its peak.
Yeah, it was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously you've played the Switch ones. So, and a lot of people say that the GBA games perhaps are, you know, not the weakest, but you had like the novelty factor of the Game Boy games, and then you had the innovation. We talked about this at the beginning. You had the innovative style of the newer games from the DS and onwards into the Switch. And a lot of people say that, you know, this era was a bit like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But you know, like, what's your thoughts on that kind of opinion? Do you think that's fair?
I don't think it is really, because I think people are judging them because they were slightly more basic compared to the newer ones today, but that's only because they're older. They're the originals. It was just the start of the franchise. And you've got to think it's grown from that. So that first generation must have been popular for it to have grown as much as it has now. So I think it is a bit unfair to say it's a bit of like a step down or anything. Obviously, DS was very good, partially because of sort of the more interactiveness, because you could like speak into it. You had the little pen, you could draw on it. There were the two screens. So it was very good, but I think the original games are still quite good as well. And I think it is quite unfair to say that they're not as good.
I think yeah, no, I'd agree with you based on what I've seen and what you've said and what I've understood of it. And I think really for me, I would see the first generation as being like, this is this new franchise, which you know I suspect Nintendo probably didn't realise just how big it's going to be. You know, and obviously with the cartoon and everything else like that, it just become this huge phenomenon on the original ones. And then obviously we had the innovation later on. But I think what the Game Boy Advance era did was it kind of solidified that a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of rooted it and said, we're gonna. It's almost like, you know, in music you have the difficult second album. It's like, you know, like it's like that period where it was kind of almost make or break. I think if the Game Boy Advance games had not been very good, I think that, you know, that could have been the end of the franchise. We've seen that happen before. So I think they just kind of made it work really well beyond that. Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, thanks for your feedback on that then. I think that was really interesting, and I think I think to anybody out there who's wondering whether it's worth going back and playing on the old GBA games, what would your advice be to them on that?
Definitely, because it gives you a sense of nostalgia. It lets you see what this franchise came from, especially if you're a big fan like I am and you don't know much about it. I think it's really good to see where this amazing thing for you has started from. Yeah,
no, that's cool. And I mean that's like going back, and I think it's no different to going back and playing like the original Super Mario Brothers on the NES, or going back in and playing Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 on the Mega Drive and those kind of things. There's been so many versions of those because they're so good. Like, and if you're a fan of that particular franchise, then that's really good. And obviously Pokemon is so much bigger than so many other franchises, because it's not just, you know, as I said at the start, it's not just a game. It is, you know, you've obviously got the card collecting and the board game. You've got the cartoons. You've been getting into those as well, haven't you? Like the original cartoons.
Let's get back and watch them.
There's thousands of them, isn't there? Literally thousands. Yeah, but they're good though. Worth a look. I think you can find most of them on YouTube. In fact, I think they've been releasing them like for you to watch for free, haven't they, as well? So there's an opportunity there to really kind of immerse yourself back in the kind of early noughties, late 90s Pokemon, for sure. Nice one. Okay, well, look, thanks for joining me on that. It was really cool. That was an interesting voyage of discovery of Pokemon, and yeah, I hope you all found that useful as well, and that you're going to go back and check out some of these old GBA games. They're easy to find. There's lots of ways of getting back into it. Now, one of the things that is quite tricky is, unless you happen to own some of the original cartridges, getting hold of the original games is very, very expensive. So there are lots of ways of getting into it. There are a couple of games, as I mentioned before, on, you know, there's new versions. I think there's, did we say that Gold and Silver was
Heart Gold and Silver were the remakes of those.
on the DS, I think?
Yeah, perhaps.
I can't actually remember. And you said, would you say Leaf Green was on the Switch?
Yeah, Leaf Green and FireRed released for the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, but that's quite expensive.
But it'd be cheaper than buying the original cartridges.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, depending on how you feel about it, you can also emulate the games quite easily, and you can pick up cartridges as well from like Temu and eBay and things like that, but they are not original cartridges, although they do work perfectly fine. You can try those out as well. So yeah, you can pick those up. So there's lots of ways of getting back into it. Some of them are more expensive than others depending on how you feel about it. If you're lucky enough to own some of the original games, then great. But yeah, otherwise it can be quite tricky. But there's a couple available on the Switch as well. The Dungeon one, which is name I've already forgotten again.
Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
That's the one. And did we say Pinball was on? I can't remember if Pinball was on there or not.
I don't.
I'm not sure. But yeah, there are lots of ways, and obviously you can play some of the newer ones as well. There's just so much stuff to get into, but definitely worth going and checking these out as well. So anyway, I'll stop rambling now and just wrap up. So coming up on the channel, we are hurtling towards the end of April. I haven't got anything planned for the bit between next week, but I am contemplating doing a live stream. I'm not sure what it's going to be about. It might just be me chattering, so just come and join me and I'll play some retro games and we'll have a natter, but more details on that to follow. I keep saying that. I have got the next Retro Red Steve Racer Challenge up now, which is called Motorhead, which looks really cool. So I'm going to be looking forward to getting on and playing that as well. And then I think we've got, what did we say, 17th now. So we've only got about 2 more weeks of the GBA. And then we'll be looking at obviously what it's been like to live with for the last month as well. So go back and check out my Mario Kart Super Circuit bit between from last week, and the week before I looked at whether I thought the GBA was a bit of a SNES in your pocket, so go and check that out. Nice short video, that one. Go and have a look at that as well. Yeah, that just leaves me to say thanks, Harry, for joining me on the video. I'll have to do it again sometime. That's fun. I enjoyed that. Thanks everybody also for watching. If you do enjoy these videos, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I'm so tantalizingly close to 1,000 subscribers now, which I can hardly believe. It is absolutely amazing. So thank you everybody for your support on that so far. And yeah, just leaves me to say, yeah, please do all take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, bye for now.